Hello everyone, I hope that you are doing fine. Today I would like to talk about self-esteem. Many of you know about it perhaps. Some of you might not know much about it and find your self-esteem as low compared to other people. Well, this is an important subject. And according to my clinical experiences, it is so fundamental and important topic in the context of psychotherapy that sometimes we cannot go further in the therapy process without addressing and working on it at the first place. So it usually should be worked on before we address other things and problems. I mean, self-esteem is an important construct which should be included in both relational or marriage-related questions and challenges, as well as individual therapy work. Although the individual therapy work is also at some point relational in nature. Many therapists might ignore working with self-esteem directly and tend to work more with symptoms and chief complaints of the clients. Also, situations where reactions and symptoms can be understood as consequences of having a low sense of perceived self-worth and self-esteem. So that is why I assume that although the mainstream psychology has brought a lot of attention toward this topic, but this might be at some point remain an under-evaluated topic when it comes to clinical practices. Self-esteem refers to a complicated mental state related to the way we view ourselves or our subjective evaluation and understanding of our self-worth. This picture of your values or this perception of your own overall worthiness is a cornerstone of many other qualities. So this is about our innate sense of our identity, including both cognitive self-concept capacity and affective self-attribution of love for ourselves. Research has also helped us to, capture a better understanding, a better picture of the role of self-esteem on other things or life areas, such as our social relationships, our further ability to academic engagement and performance and success, and choice of our coping strategies. For example, if you have a high self-esteem, you are more likely to have good and stable social relationships over time, or to manage your social connections better, and vice versa. It means that this effect will be reciprocal, and you will most probably get your self-esteem reinforced by having good relationships and social experiences. So self-esteem is usually considered into a continuous scale from low to high. In other words, those with high self-esteem are those who feel positive toward themselves, whereas those with low self-esteem feel very uncertain about themselves. So those few theories on purpose or serving functions of self-esteem agree on the point that the existence of self-esteem can be understood from an evolutionary perspective. It is conceptualized that we as human beings have needed self-esteem because of our substantial need for belonging and being part of a bigger society, since admission and being accepted by our social groups have had a key role in survival through history. Right? So self-esteem is then a measure of one's degree of social belonging and acceptance. It can be, you can think that self-esteem has a facilitating function in social situations, as having an accurate sense of self-worth will help us to navigate better and situate ourselves in different relational settings in accordance with our own perception of our worth level and capabilities, and so to shape our behaviors and attitudes and relationships. Research and clinical experiences indicate also that high level of self-esteem in young adolescents is a good predictor of good self-esteem in adulthood, and also that it increases the possibility of better general well-being and general mental health. But how to boost our self-esteem? How to get a better sense of self-worth? For many of us who have got a lower sense of self-esteem, it feels like almost impossible to do that, as it is strongly connected to self-worth, right? So that's true. That could be tough for you to do that and alter the way you unconsciously think and feel about yourself by your own. Sometimes some of you might think that this is not very important thing, as the reactions or some certain problems which you struggle with are more important for you to do something with than your self-esteem. But the fact is that if you have a low self-esteem, your psychological reactions and symptoms can be related to it, as self-esteem is tightly connected to your core ideas about your self-concept, about knowledge of yourself. It means that if you perceive yourself as not good or worthy person, you're worthy enough person, or you tend to doubt about yourself and your abilities, your brain and mind will certainly produce some symptoms, because the lower self-esteem or self-worth level, the longer distance you take from your true self and values. In other words, your self-esteem is a partial representation of the fact that your inward focus, your ability to observe, trust, and maintain good and safe connection with yourself is not strong. So when we have weak relationships with something or someone, including ourselves, we tend not to be attentive toward it, right? We might unconsciously escape from it or ignore it. A person with low self-esteem might find it hard to be consistent and observant about his inner world, as his self-worth and perception of self-value is generally low. Of course, it is much better to get professional help to understand the reasons and underpinnings of the problem, but still we can do some tiny acts of wisdom and kindness in order to make ourselves aware of it, and so step into the path of change and development. We know today that we can lose our self-worth to get a weak fundament for self-esteem during childhood. In addition, our experiences in adulthood, living environments can shape our self-image and perception of who we are. Unfortunately, all bad or unfair things and critics that we were previously told about and received about ourselves can be internalized and become part of our value system, our identity. So it is important to recall these sad memories and figure out which critic, which meaning, which sense or reactions impacted negatively our self-knowledge and the way we see ourselves today. Then it will be perhaps easier to sort them out and try to show ourselves by gathering positive evidences. That is not true. This is just an internalized image of who I told to be, without reflecting my true self, my authentic self, my identity and my values. Remember, the process of change begins always with observation, studying and acknowledging our inner reactions and existing phenomena. So the process of self-orienting to the current reality will be facilitated if we use concrete reminders of our today life to remind ourselves that this piece of false information no longer applies to me. We may write down, a positive word, note, message, or letter to our inner child, who keep it with us. And we can keep this message with us every day and look at it every time, feelings of unworthiness and low self-esteem stretch their shadows on our current moments and destroy our presence and ability to be present for ourselves here and now. Another constructive action is to capture those situations which trigger the very vulnerable part of us, which tends to criticize us under exaggerated optimism, modesty, or benevolence covers. These are situations where we really destroy our sense of self-worth, since those of us who have got a low self-esteem can sacrifice our boundaries and values for others and in relationships. I assume that this is one of the biggest enemies of self-esteem. Many of us can repeat inappropriate statements about ourselves without being totally aware of their negative echo and impact, such as, "Oh, sorry, I'm stupid, I'm lazy, I'm such a clumsy girl," and so on. So we should dare to think well and warmly about ourselves. That's so important. Many of us who suffer from low self-esteem are ignorant about our functions and what we can actually do and manage. We become more and more reluctant to celebrate small and big successes and occasions of self-development and accomplishments, right? So we might suddenly feel that we are a hamster on a wheel. We produce, work and go on through life like a machine, getting nowhere. We hardly understand that all strategies and things that we do, we do with practice, make it more difficult for us to see really who we are and who and what we do these things for. In other words, we fight and all the time try to make a better life for ourselves and our families without knowing that we continue to perpetuate our problems. And so we will take more and more distance from ourselves, deep personal relations, and self-knowledge. It is like making a big space of disassociation and distance through which we move and walk constantly, imagining a better future without taking pauses and reflect about our inner and outer world. It's best to start figuring out tangible outcomes and recognize and celebrate all the small and big things that we manage to fix and accomplish in order to mobilize self-worth and positive feelings toward ourselves. Because people who are self-critical ignore their small achievements and just block it from their conscious mind. They might have a very high and perfectionist idea of what is success and achievement and what is the usual unimportant and boring daily life. It will definitely be challenging if you're living in an environment or family dynamics which is toxic, if you feel that you're surrounded by people who do not choose to treat you friendly, or you are in a relationship with somebody who is judgmental or critical toward you. We know that psychological violence is one of the main factors for affecting self-esteem. If so, you have to take distance from toxic persons in your family and or friends circles. Or at least you have to reassess your way of managing your relationships with them. If you have so vulnerable and weak boundaries, which are frequently invaded by them, your self-esteem gets harmed and you will continue to feel bad about yourself. I hope that these reflections have given you a little motivation to encourage and forgive yourself. We cannot develop our sense of self-worth without approaching ourselves with kindness and understanding and forgiveness. So please Practice taking care of your inner child who deserves a lot of positive attention, encouragement, and warmth. Please keep in touch, take care, and we'll connect with another video soon. Thank you.